Heading into the back end of the 2024 NFL regular season, many teams are already eliminated from the playoffs and are looking ahead to the offseason. Thus, the first rounds of NFL draft scouting have started for many people, and most scouting starts with quarterback. The most important position in football is usually the number one pick in the draft. Now, the 2025 class has gotten a lot of discourse recently, and the general consensus you've probably heard around is that the class is very poor. PFF's mock draft simulator has 3 quarterbacks simulated to go first round: Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, 3 first-round quarterbacks is not uncommon, however none are projected to go in the top 10, and many outside of PFF don't consider Milroe a first-round caliber quarterback. So if you're sitting on top, aka the Raiders and Giants, who really need quarterback, you might be scared to see the situation. Now, this is definitely not the quarterback class of previous years, which have been pretty good, but how bad is it exactly? Well, I'm going to dive into the surface of the top 3 quarterbacks of this class and tell you what I think so far early into this scouting season. Now, some of these opinions can be subject to change as I dive into more film on these prospects, but as of right now, I'll tell you my thoughts on each of them. Before I get into the breakdowns, however, be sure to like and subscribe for weekly NFL and college football videos. Playoffs and draft season are almost here, and you won't want to miss it. So, now that that's out of the way, let's dive into the first quarterback. First off, we have Shedeur Sanders. Overall, outside of the PFF board, most have Shedeur as the number 1 quarterback in this class, and a lot of mock drafts have him going number 1 overall to the Raiders with the way the board sits right now. But is Shedeur worthy of being that prestigious number 1 overall pick, savior of the franchise? Well, maybe. When you dive into the Shedeur's film, one thing that really shows from him is the accuracy in the short to intermediate ranges. He will rarely ever misplace a throw below the 25 yards. This plays into the reason I think many people have Shedeur as the number 1 quarterback. Compared to Cam Ward and Jalen Milroe, Shedeur has the highest floor of the top 3 quarterbacks, and the great accuracy underneath plays a very good part in that. Also, of the 3 quarterbacks, he has the best processing at this stage. However, I have plenty of concerns with Shedeur. I'm probably going to make it clear, but I'm not as high on him as most people. I have massive concerns with Shedeur's arm talent. You look at all the top quarterbacks in the NFL: Patrick Mahomes, elite arm; Josh Allen, elite arm; Lamar Jackson, great arm; Herbert, elite arm; Stafford, great arm, etc. The reason you take a quarterback number 1 overall in the draft is because you can believe he can be the future star of your team, win you a Super Bowl, and become one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only one quarterback in the NFL in the top 5 who doesn't have a great to elite arm, and that's Joe Burrow. Yet, when Joe Burrow came out of college, his main trait was his elite processing. And frankly, Shedeur's processing is not even close to what Burrow's was when Burrow came out of college. And Burrow still has better arm talent than Shedeur. Now, maybe you don't need your number 1 pick to be a top 5 to 7 quarterback, as Jared Goff has led the Lions to a great record recently with a not so great arm. But again, it took Goff a lot of years and a team and culture switch to get where he is now. When I watch Shedeur Sanders, the ball doesn't travel very fast, when in the NFL, the defenders are much faster than Big 12 college kids. He can throw decently far, but on the run, he really can't throw that well downfield. Every time I've seen him try to throw on the run downfield, the ball ends up shorter than where it needs to be, and it allows defenders to get back into plays. But yeah, going to move on from the arm talent thing. Very concerning if he's going to be drafted number 1 overall with that arm talent. Shedeur isn't a great runner, but he does have a nice ability to extend plays. He can run and pick up yards, but overall he's not some elite athlete. Also in the pocket, his presence and awareness does need to improve. Unfortunately, at Colorado, Shedeur was blessed with possibly the worst offensive line in the country, so it makes sense as to why he's a little paranoid in the pocket, but he will need to improve on it in the NFL. Honestly, I think the common knock on Shedeur that he holds the ball too long isn't all that true. I think it's similar to that discourse on Caleb Williams last year coming out. He usually is pretty on time in short concepts, and usually when he holds onto the ball, no one is open and he's got to make a play. But Shedeur can absolutely play in structure well and get rid of the ball fast. His footwork probably has to improve. He's got a little Bryce Young kind of pitter-patter drop, which hurts his timing occasionally in the short game. Overall, his processing, while better than other quarterbacks like Ward and Milroe, is not perfect. He definitely misses open reads, and while progressions are alright, he does struggle to get to his check down as the last read. And while I said earlier he is great in underneath to intermediate accuracy, his deep accuracy is not great. Again, the arm talent definitely plays into that, but his deep ball can definitely be better. Overall, as of this point right now, I don't think Shedeur has the ability to go number 1 overall. He's a higher floor, but a low ceiling player. In terms of this draft class, I think the biggest wild card is easily Cam Ward. Ward is pretty much the opposite of Shedeur. Ward possesses an incredible arm, is very athletic, fast, strong. He has everything you want in a franchise quarterback. The issues with Ward start with his overall processing. While Ward does a pretty good job of getting through his reads, he constantly makes head-scratching decisions and puts the ball into harm's way a bit too much. He also struggles a lot with missing open reads and checkdowns favoring deeper plays. In terms of accuracy, he's fairly accurate at all ranges. He has some really special throws on tape, specifically in the Virginia Tech game. He had a strike over the middle, which is the best throw I've seen from a prospect so far for a touchdown. He is also a very good play extender, I'd say better than Shedeur. He has a nice ability to avoid and break sacks, outrun linemen, and extend the play to either run or throw. And obviously, with his arm, he can make any throw you need inside or outside of the pocket, with his feet set or on the run. A truly dynamic player. Overall, in the pocket, his footwork is actually really nice. He has good, calm feet, and always has them set when he's throwing. He does have a bit of a tendency to escape from clean pockets to run, but he has pretty good pocket awareness of the rush and where to move. But again, his processing still needs to come a long way. He probably will not be ready to go year one, but if he does start, we are probably looking at an Anthony Richardson style debut. Makes some fantastic throws, but makes a lot of head scratching ones as well. Now, he definitely doesn't have the accuracy issues of AR, but he still will probably need to develop his processing, and he also needs to just learn to find his checkdowns better and get rid of the ball sooner. He often passes up open underneath routes for deeper throws, so there is this dilemma with Cam Ward. Do you trust the traits, or does the lack of processing and plenty of questionable decisions scare you away? For me, I think of the three, Cam Ward is the only one I would consider going with number 1 overall, but I don't think I would do it. I still think he's the best prospect of the three, and if I'm sitting at maybe 6 or 7, I'd probably pull the trigger on Cam Ward. You just can't deny the elite traits he has, and you get him into a favorable situation with good coaching, he can become an absolute superstar. He just has a ceiling the other quarterbacks in this class can't touch. Now, the consensus third quarterback of the draft is Jalen Milroe. Milroe, like Ward, is very polarizing. Let's just state the obvious here and get it out of the way. Milroe is an amazing runner. He is probably a better running quarterback than both Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson, two of the better running quarterbacks we've seen in the draft recently. He is built super well at 6'2", 220. He probably runs a low 4.4, and he can run through you, around you, make you miss. He's super hard to stop when he's on because he can either take off for 40 plus yards or throw a deep bomb for 40 plus yards. Overall, Milroe's legs will give him a super high floor as an impact player for some NFL team. Even if he doesn't start right away at quarterback, he can be easily put in designed quarterback run plays, 2-point plays, 4th downs, and stuff like that. Even if he never becomes a franchise quarterback, he might just be a Taysom Hill on steroids. The arm strength is very good, he can throw a deep bomb with the best of them. Overall accuracy is okay, not bad, but sometimes the placement isn't perfect and it can occasionally reduce receivers' ability to run after the catch. Milroe goes through his progressions really well. He is always scanning the field looking for open receivers. His processing has definitely improved from the previous season, making a lot of nice decisions. One thing I did notice on film, however, and tell me if I'm wrong because I've only watched the Georgia and Wisconsin games from Milroe, but it really seems like they don't throw too much on Milroe's plate. A lot of the passing concepts Alabama runs are very simple. I mean, it just got so repetitive on film watching Bama run mesh or some variation of 2 underneath crossers at least 1,000 times between the two games. Obviously an exaggeration, but it was a lot. It seems like all of Milroe's throws are either underneath crosser, underneath stop route, mid-range stop route, or deep post and goes. I don't see him throwing a lot of digs, mid-range crossers, and other routes over the middle of the field. This obviously may not be his fault, but you gotta wonder, is it the offense that's designed this way, or is it that they don't trust Milroe to run those different complex concepts? There also seems to be a real lack of anticipation on Milroe's film as well. He just seems to be a little late on some throws because he doesn't throw with a ton of anticipation. I still need to get into some of Milroe's later games where he seemed to be playing rather poorly from just looking at the stats, but if you look back at how bad of a passer Milroe was last year, this jump to this year is still honestly impressive. And maybe it's a good sign that if he gets good coaching, he might be easily developable and be better year after year. Overall, I just don't think Milroe will be ready to play year 1 and maybe year 2. If he does, it could be an absolute train wreck. Decent accuracy, decent processing, but no real complex passing concepts in college and lacks anticipation. Not a recipe for success in the NFL, but he has the arm, speed, running ability, size to be a good NFL quarterback. And if he can continue to improve his processing, accuracy, and just become a more complete player, he can definitely be a scary player to play against for NFL defenses with his speed and arm talent. So this quarterback class clearly is not near the level of the last two, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as the 2022 class. My current quarterback 1 is Cam Ward. Ward is boom or bust, however. Shedeur is more of the high floor, low ceiling, and Milroe is just more of a pure project. Overall, I just don't think any of these players really have the ability to go number one overall. It's really unfortunate for Giants fans who tried to trade up for Drake May last year and passed on JJ McCarthy, only for this year's class to not even be close to the last year's. Now, there is still time for scouting, the entire college football playoff, and so these rankings are easily subject to change. Maybe we see some late risers. Drew Aller looked pretty good versus Oregon. But other than that, I don't really think Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers are going to be good NFL quarterbacks. So honestly, how bad is this class of quarterbacks? Well, I do think there are 3 or 4 potential franchise quarterbacks, but they need a little help. Ward and Milroe are super boom or bust, and Sanders just doesn't have that super desirable ceiling for me. I'm definitely skeptical about the future of these quarterbacks. You really don't have any super high probability superstars like we did last year with Caleb and Drake. In terms of how it compares to the previous classes outside of the 2022 class, it's probably one of the worst we've seen in a while. But that doesn't mean there isn't talent to be tapped into with this class.